It's patron request time, and that's a good thing because you guys never steer me wrong. We're gonna review a Hong Kong slasher called Dream Home. Let's do this. Dream Home stars Josie Ho, Ching Wong, Helen Tu, and is directed by Ho Ching Pang. What's up, guys? Patron request time. This one is going out to Corey Slater, and I cannot thank Corey enough for recommending this movie to me. He knows I love slashers. He even said it in his message. So he thought I might get a kick out of this movie out of Hong Kong called Dream Home, about this woman who goes on this killing spree so she can get this house, this dream home.
To get the home she's always desired.
It's as simple as that, but man, this movie has a lot going for it. Never even heard of it, and oh my, thank God for my patrons, okay? So looking forward to diving into this review. But real quick, before we dig deep, make sure you are subscribed to my second channel, Drumdums Extra. That's where I put a lot of my DD Live clips. I get to kind of let my hair down a little bit, talk about just topical type stuff. Could be anything. Physical media. That video actually is doing pretty well right now, just talking about physical media. So I'll put a card right here. Drumdums Extra. Definitely check it out. A lot of cool stuff going on over there. Still very horror related, by the way. And speaking of horror, let's get into this review. This one definitely goes for the jugular. Let me give you a quick plot synopsis. Our main character is played by Josie Ho. She plays Ching, and we pretty much are focused on her throughout the whole movie. She lives in Hong Kong, and the real estate market in Hong Kong, and really at the time of this movie, everywhere, because this takes place, I think, right before the stock market collapse in 2008. And even before that, housing prices are just going through the roof. She can't get a loan. And there's a reason why she wants to do this, which we will get into, but just the quick plot synopsis side of things. She goes on a killing spree so she can make this building pretty much uninhabitable. Nobody would ever think about buying a place here because there are all these mass murders. Now, at the beginning of this movie, it says based on a true story, which is absolutely crazy to me, but also believable. Sometimes people go to extremes to get what they want. And that's what this character Ching does. But what makes this movie so great is just the focus on character development, especially this character Ching, and just telling why she got to this place. Of course, it's, you know, a horrible thing that she did, but it just helps to see a little bit of her backstory, or I guess in this case, quite a bit of her backstory. So Ching grew up in the lower middle class. Her father always wanted a place next to the harbor, you know, kind of a bayside place. And I guess that stayed with her. And so eventually when she becomes an adult, that's kind of her goal. You know, she's been working her whole life. She's a telemarketer, but she works like 2 jobs. And her end goal is just to have a nice place. And she constantly is trying to get a loan, and she gets denied. And so eventually she has to take matters into her own hands and figure out a way to do this. And you know, I think this is a relatable thing. Not that we would all want to go killing people to get a nice place, but the housing market can be a beast sometimes. And you know, like this house that I just bought now, I think I just got lucky because right after we bought this house, the housing market went back up and the interest rates went back up. So a lot of this is timing too, and availability. And here in Florida, I guess much like Hong Kong and a lot of other places, sometimes the availability can get pretty scarce. And so I can see how some people go crazy in order to, I guess, secure a home. And as crazy as this story is, somehow I believe it. And I like how this movie kind of delves into the minutia and the logistics of all that, and showing that you might have a job where you, on paper, make enough money to make your payments every month, but sometimes that's just not enough. To get a loan, you have to have an application that is just stacked full of all these, I guess, qualifying criteria. And sometimes if you just don't have one of those things, your loan will get denied. So I kind of felt for this character. And you know what? This is just refreshing. You know, slasher movies, the basic premise 90% of the time is usually the same thing. A killer going around killing people. Usually because of maybe stalking, or it could just be a completely random thing. Rarely, if ever, is it because of like real estate, you know? The only other horror movie that I can think of that revolves around like real estate might be The Crow. The Department of Housing wanted to secure that building, and so they went in and killed Eric Draven and Shelley. That's the only other real estate movie I can think of. Let me know down in the comments if you can think of any. Now, we're going to get into the bloody horror of this movie, and believe me, it does get really, really bloody. I mean, it's an Asian horror film. But first, let me talk about like the structure of this movie. It's kind of circular. It's not linear. And what I mean by that is it starts at like a certain time. It even gives you like the timestamp. I think it's like just around like 10:30 in the evening when our character Ching is going to this building to commit these murders. And so you go through the movie, and then at the end of the movie, it kind of circles right back around to that time frame. So the way this is set up is all these murders happen on one night, and I think there's like 3 different set pieces that are extremely violent, which we'll go into. But in between all that, we see Ching's past, all the way from when she was a child up until now, and kind of what led to all this. And it explores like her relationship with her family and her father, and how her father is dying, you know. And so there's some desperation there and some sadness. And oftentimes we don't want to know what drove the killer mad, but sometimes that information does help if it's interesting. And this is one of those scenarios. Okay, let's get into the freaking meat and potatoes of this review. The violence in this movie, if you don't care about anything else, you know, the story, the great character development, you'll still probably like this if you are really into like slashers and carnage candy, because oh my God, this movie is very violent, very bloody, but it still feels more realistic and less fantastical in terms of the nature of the violence, which is fitting because this is based on a true story. But this is stuff like, say, if you were watching a documentary, you know, like maybe on the Manson murders, and you know that scene is just grisly. And just imagining how that whole scene kind of played out. This is handled kind of the same way. And I'm not going to go through exactly what happens with every kill scene, because I want you guys to go into that and just experience it for yourself. I think it'll be that much more shocking if you do. But what I will say is, as far as like variety goes, creativity, it's definitely there. There is a special weapon that she uses, zip ties. This is one of those cases where, you know, your killer goes to like a hardware store and she just picks up all these supplies, you know, like a mini sledgehammer, zip ties, saws, you name it. And she puts them all to use. But the death scenes are pretty drawn out too. It's not just a case where somebody stalks a victim and then it's a quick kill and then we move on. No. Once she gets to the victim, we spend some time with them, okay? And it gets pretty graphic and bloody. As a matter of fact, I'm going to review the Prom Night remake right after this movie, which from a violent standpoint is the complete opposite of this movie. And this was refreshing after finishing watching that movie. But you're definitely going to see like eye gouges. You're going to see impalements. You're going to see knives go through body parts, like all the way through body parts. It's all there. One signature kill that I will mention is with the use of a vacuum. Think about like Black Christmas, how the person's head is wrapped in plastic, but there's also like a hole so you can put a vacuum, and she vacuums the head. And by the way, there is a pregnant victim in this movie too, which sort of made me think of the movie Inside. Man, I tell you, these movies outside of America, Asian horror films, French horror films, even Australian horror films, they don't shy away from blood at all. And maybe I just like that stuff. I don't know. But usually I don't like the scene to just dwell on a certain kill for too long. But this was the exception because of the main character, Ching. I was kind of glued onto her and what caused her to go this far. You're always curious about her mindset as she's carrying out these murders. And also got to give mad props to director Ho Ching Pang. As with a lot of Asian filmmakers, Asian directors, they just have a certain style. They're really creative, but they're not afraid. I guess the best way I can put it is to put their actors in uncomfortable positions. You know, there's no way around it. you can tell that some of these scenes, these were some tough days to shoot. And it takes a director that knows how to put his actors at ease to handle a situation like this. And also, lastly, one little anecdote that I did like early in the movie, Ching has this boyfriend, and he's talking about how in Korea, you know, Korean men are known for beating their wives. And he was talking about this woman who didn't think her husband loved her because he wouldn't beat her. And I'm laughing just because the absurdity of the story.
如果你真係關心我咧，你做咩唔打我啫？
To me, it felt like a conversation that you would see in a Tarantino movie. That's the best way I can put it. So anyway, guys, as far as a rating for this movie, definitely a purchase worthy. I was looking to see if I could buy the Blu-ray, and the Blu-ray's out of print. I think you can get it for like 200 bucks or something like that. I don't know. So if you guys know, let me know down in the comments. But this is one I'd definitely like to add to my collection. And thank you, Corey, for recommending this movie to me. I really appreciate it. Also, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day, and on Fridays we do Free Fall Fridays. Follow me at Drumdums on all my socials. Support me on Patreon, where you can also request reviews. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and Drumdum out.